Good evening. Tonight, we bring you a story that will be remembered as a turning point in economic history. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has struck down the Trump-era tariffs, ending a controversial chapter that has reshaped the global economy for years. These tariffs ignited a trade war, driving up prices on everyday goods, from groceries to electronics, and forcing companies to rethink and often relocate their supply chains. The ripple effects were felt in every corner of the world, impacting both large corporations and small businesses alike. With a single decision, the economic barriers that once divided nations are now gone. Borders that were once closed to certain goods are opening up, and the flow of trade is resuming at a pace not seen in years. Markets are in turmoil as investors react to the news. Governments are scrambling to adjust their policies, and businesses everywhere are re-evaluating their strategies in real time, trying to anticipate what comes next. For years, tariffs divided opinion. Some saw them as vital protection for American jobs and industries, while others argued they were harmful protectionism that stifled innovation and raised costs for everyone. Now, the debate has been settled not by politicians or lobbyists, but by the highest court in the land. The Supreme Court's ruling is final, and its impact will be felt for generations. The ruling touches everyone: factory workers on the line, tech executives in boardrooms, farmers in their fields, and small business owners on Main Street. No sector is untouched, and the effects will ripple across the globe. The world is watching closely, as leaders and citizens alike try to understand the massive implications of this decision. From Beijing to Berlin, from New York to New Delhi, the eyes of the world are on America tonight. What does this mean for your wallet, for American business, and for the future of global trade? Will prices fall, or will uncertainty linger? Will new opportunities arise, or will new challenges emerge? The legal arguments were complex, involving questions of executive power and international law, but the outcome is clear. Economic nationalism has been abruptly halted, and a new era of trade may be beginning. The question now: what comes next? How will businesses, workers, and governments adapt to this new reality? The world waits for answers. Our reporters are standing by across the globe to bring you the latest updates, expert analysis, and reactions from every continent. Stay with us as we cover this historic moment. In a landmark decision that will be studied for years to come, the Supreme Court has overturned the Trump-era tariffs in a 6-3 decision, sending shockwaves through the legal and economic communities. The majority opinion, authored by Chief Justice Roberts, concluded that the executive branch had overstepped its constitutional authority by imposing sweeping tariffs without clear congressional approval. The justices determined that the laws cited to justify these tariffs were interpreted far beyond what Congress originally intended, setting a new precedent for how trade laws are enforced. As a result, the ruling immediately nullifies tariffs on steel, aluminum, and a vast array of Chinese goods, impacting hundreds of billions of dollars in trade. For nearly 8 years, American businesses and consumers have shouldered the burden, paying billions in extra costs that rippled through supply chains and raised prices on everyday goods. The Supreme Court's decision marks a seismic shift in American trade policy, sharply limiting the president's power to unilaterally impose economic measures and reinforcing the role of Congress. It's a major victory for businesses, industry groups, and trade associations who have long argued that these tariffs amounted to an illegal tax, stifling growth and innovation. The court's message is clear and unequivocal. Sweeping economic actions that affect millions must be authorized by Congress, not decided by a single branch of government. Global markets reacted instantly. Stocks surged in Asia and Europe, the US dollar fluctuated, and world leaders issued statements of cautious optimism, watching closely for the next moves from Washington. Supporters of the tariffs are calling this judicial overreach, warning of potential risks to American industries, while critics see the ruling as a crucial step in restoring constitutional balance and protecting consumers. The economic landscape has changed overnight, with businesses, workers, and investors now facing a dramatically different set of rules and opportunities. Around the world, governments and corporations are adjusting in real time, recalibrating strategies as new economic indicators emerge, and the effects of the ruling ripple across borders. In the coming days, we'll break down what this historic decision means for you, your wallet, and the global economy. Stay tuned for in-depth analysis and expert insights. To grasp today's impact, let's revisit the origins of these tariffs. In 2018, President Trump invoked Section 232, citing national security, to impose tariffs on steel and aluminum, even targeting allies. The goal: protect U.S. producers from foreign competition. Soon after, tariffs expanded to Chinese goods, citing unfair trade practices. China retaliated, targeting American exports like soybeans, escalating a trade war. U.S. manufacturers faced higher costs, some laid off workers or delayed growth. Farmers lost key export markets, and many struggled despite government aid. Domestic steel companies briefly thrived, but the tariffs divided communities into winners and losers. Globally, the tariffs strained alliances and disrupted supply chains. The World Trade Organization was powerless to resolve the disputes. Companies scrambled to move manufacturing out of China. The uncertainty persisted through the Biden administration, which kept many tariffs as leverage. Today, that era ends. The world must now adapt to a new trade reality. The consequences will be far-reaching. The legal battle began as soon as the tariffs were imposed. American companies sued, arguing the president's use of Section 232 was unconstitutional and gave too much power to the executive. Lower courts initially sided with the government, citing national security. But in 2012, in 2024, a federal appeals court questioned whether the law was being stretched beyond its original intent. This split among courts prompted the Supreme Court to take the case. The central question: can an old law for Cold War emergencies justify a modern trade war? The Supreme Court said no. Congress must clearly authorize such sweeping actions. The ruling reasserts Congress's role in trade policy and checks presidential power. It sets a new precedent for how America handles global economic disputes. The legal landscape for trade has fundamentally changed. Financial markets reacted instantly to the Supreme Court's decision. The Dow surged, tech and retail stocks rallied, while U.S. steel and aluminum shares plummeted. In Europe, automakers soared. In Asia, markets pointed to major gains. The Chinese yuan strengthened, signaling optimism for China's exports. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce called the ruling a victory for businesses and consumers. Labor unions, however, warned of threats to American industry and jobs. Government agencies now face the challenge of unwinding years of tariff policy. Key questions remain. When do tariffs end? Will companies get refunds? The ruling creates legal and logistical uncertainty that will take time to resolve. The economic fallout is just beginning. We'll continue to track the impact. The Supreme Court's decision will have real consequences for millions. Winners: companies that import goods, construction firms, and small businesses relying on foreign materials. Consumers may see lower prices on appliances, electronics, and clothing as tariffs disappear. Relief won't be immediate, but inflationary pressures could ease. Losers: U.S. steel and aluminum producers, who now face renewed foreign competition. Workers in these industries face uncertainty and possible layoffs. Farmers may benefit as China could lift retaliatory tariffs, reopening markets for American crops. But global trade patterns have shifted. Regaining lost market share won't be easy. The ruling forces painful adjustments for some, new opportunities for others. The impact will ripple through communities and industries nationwide. The story of winners and losers is just beginning. We'll follow how Main Street adapts. Stay with us. The world is reacting with a mix of relief and caution. European leaders welcome the decision as a return to rules-based trade. China's response is measured, hoping for swift removal of tariffs, but wary of ongoing tensions. Canada and Mexico see vindication and hope for stronger North American trade. Not all are pleased. Populist leaders criticize the ruling as undermining national sovereignty. The decision deepens ideological divides over globalization and protectionism. For many, it's a chance to reset strained alliances. For others, it's a loss of economic control. The global conversation on trade is shifting. The world is watching America's next move. To understand the long-term impact of this landmark decision, I spoke with Dr. Evelyn Reed, a leading trade economist who has spent decades analyzing the complexities of international commerce and policy. Dr. Reed explains that the recent Supreme Court ruling is fundamentally about restoring predictability and trust to global trade relationships, which have been shaken in recent years. For years, companies both in the U.S. and abroad have faced significant uncertainty due to sudden policy shifts, unexpected tariffs, and rapidly changing regulations. This unpredictability has made it difficult for businesses to plan investments, manage supply chains, and hire workers with confidence. Now, with this decision, the Supreme Court reins in unilateral executive power, signaling to the world that the U.S. is committed to being a more stable and reliable place to do business. Investors and trading partners are likely to see this as a positive step. Dr. Reed notes that while the US-China rivalry is far from over, the tools used in this economic competition will become more targeted and sophisticated. Think export controls on sensitive technologies and careful investment screening rather than broad, sweeping tariffs. The economic conflict is shifting from blunt instruments like tariffs to more precise measures that aim to protect national security and critical industries without causing widespread disruption. Importantly, the Supreme Court did not ban tariffs altogether. Instead, it clarified that only Congress has the authority to impose them, reinforcing the constitutional balance of power. Now, the debate over America's trade policy moves to Capitol Hill, where lawmakers will have to grapple with tough questions about the future of U.S. industry and global competitiveness. Congress must decide if and how to protect vulnerable industries, whether to grant new trade powers to the executive branch, and how to balance economic growth with national security. This ruling forces a long overdue, robust debate on America's trade policy, pushing leaders to consider the broader implications for workers, businesses, and the global economy. The world is watching closely to see how the U.S. will lead in the 21st century, as decisions made now will ripple across international markets and shape alliances. The next steps taken by Congress and the administration will help determine the rules of global commerce for years to come, affecting everything from supply chains to consumer prices. The era of unpredictable trade wars may finally be ending. As a new chapter begins, the world waits to see what kind of leader America will be in the evolving landscape of global trade. What does this mean for you? In the short term, prices on imported goods may fall, giving your budget a boost. If you work in industries using steel or aluminum, your job may be more secure. If you work in those industries, the future is less certain. The ruling creates new opportunities and new challenges. Beyond economics, this is about checks and balances. Congress, not the president, now shapes trade. America's global reputation as a nation of laws is reaffirmed. The next move belongs to Congress: new laws, new trade deals, or a more open market. The debate over trade and America's role in the world is just beginning. We'll keep following this story as it unfolds. Thank you for watching.